Hey, DEXTools and private AI community, we have a huge AMA today. Before we get started, could you please introduce yourself and your background?
Yes, so my name is Angel. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in crypto for 10 years now, having previously launched a number of different projects. The first big one was Ambrosus, where my co-founder was Gavin Wood. It was the world's first protocol for supply chains, and we have onboarded some of the largest corporations in the world back in 2016, 2018. In the early days of crypto, relatively speaking, and that was our first startup experience. We subsequently, so with my co-founders, we have exited Ambrosus and then started working on integrating crypto technologies with other innovative use cases. And the past 5 years, we've been focused on trying to make scientific and longevity-related endeavors accelerate with crypto adoption. What we mean by that is we started working with intellectual property and other kind of scientific projects and try to use Web3 toolkits to help them monetize the science. So the past few years, I have been working on different entrepreneurial activities with universities, with deep tech companies, with intellectual property companies, and encouraging them to use crypto and Web3 to monetize their scientific research and to use crowdsourcing and acceleration of open source collaboration tools.
Wow, that's super impressive. And you're a crypto OG. I'm glad to have you here. This is going to be an amazing AMA. Can you explain what private AI is and what you guys are hoping to achieve?
Yes, so PrivateAI is a data marketplace where we intend scientists and researchers to monetize their data and monetize their intellectual property and scientific research. So the problem we've encountered over the past few years, when we've been researching this space and trying to build some stuff here, is quite simple. We've realized that there are multiple huge inefficiencies in the data space. There are lots of data graveyards where years of collective scientific research may have been spent, hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars. And that data in the end remains unused for a variety of reasons. Either they hit a dead end, or the company went bankrupt, or scientific research priorities of funding organizations have shifted, or it could have been related to geopolitical events. Obviously, COVID was also a geopolitical event where a lot of biotech and other related research was entirely diverted to focus on how to resolve it. And a lot of that data since those years, they haven't really started using it back. So there are plenty of cases where there are large amounts of data, often sitting in silos that hasn't been activated or monetized properly. And then on the smaller scale, obviously, then there are generally lots of enthusiastic scientists, researchers, data owners, data providers who are researching something exciting. They can't find ways to monetize it. The typical pathway for them is to go and apply for research grants.
Yeah.
And this obviously is a highly inefficient, bureaucratic, paperwork-based process. And it's amazing. I used to work actually many years ago before crypto, used to work at the UN, and specifically there worked on emerging technologies. And there was just a bit of accounting done on how much time in Europe, in the European Union alone for Horizon 2020, how much time and effort is spent by postdocs, PhDs, and professors of the most prestigious universities to make these grant-making applications. And the cutoff point was something like 4%. So only the top 4% of applications would go through. The remaining 96 would be unfunded just because of lack of space. So somebody has calculated that something like 45,000 people, and these are not just any random people, these are professors, PhDs, postdocs, highly educated, well-trained people, they will have spent collectively hundreds of thousands of hours preparing these proposals that would never get granted. So just in dollar terms, the losses, this wasted basically time on these continuous applications was in the scale of 45, 50 billion with a B euros. And that doesn't even take into account how much of an opportunity cost there is lost on these scientists and researchers not actually doing the real science, not pushing the advancement of research, but literally just building this consortia, trying to bring people together, trying to get data together, only to be rejected for lack of spaces. So all of these huge inefficiencies of data, this is what inspired us to come together and build the solution that we have. So Private AI intends to help bring value, bring utility to this data, to this intellectual property, and create liquid markets to help monetize these data sets and help prepare them and provide them for the AI economy.
What a noble initiative. I'm just imagining some of these research papers are probably life-changing and they don't get the funding that they need. And these scientists are probably pouring their hearts into it just to get turned down. So it's amazing what you guys are doing. Can you introduce the team and who's behind all the great work at Private AI? I saw you guys had a stacked team, so could you dive into that?
Yes, absolutely. So you can see our co-founders on our website. All of us have been in crypto between 8 and 11 years. So all of the senior executives as well as co-founders of the project have been in crypto space for a while. And we have collectively either co-founded or worked at the C-level in 4 crypto unicorns. So our CTO, Max, he previously was the lead architect of Phantom, where he worked directly under Acronia. Phantom became obviously an $8 billion market cap coin and made 1000x. So he led the whole core building initiative.
Wow.
And he joined us as the CTO alongside with his whole team. So all of the senior development team from his unit, they also joined Private AI and they're building our core. Then we obviously are very proud to have Singularity Net founding team members on board. So Marcello and Rafe, they've been there since the beginning. Singularity Net is the oldest AI Web3 project in the world, having started back in 2017, way before there was the whole crypto AI hype. And we're very proud to have been working with their team for a while. We've known most of their co-founders for many years. And we're actually going to make a major announcement with their ecosystem very soon. They are definitely at the forefront of AI, and they were the first ones to bring it to the crypto space. And they also have a number of very interesting initiatives working in the scientific area, and that's why this collaboration is very valuable for us. Our COO, Kate, she previously led the marketing turnaround for Dogecoin. I think I don't need to introduce, that project or its impact. So these became the biggest celebrity-driven marketing campaign, and Kate executed that from scratch. We still own a Doge.org domain after we did the turnaround in 2020. I kind of missed that in my intro, I guess, but I tried to focus on more serious things.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were heavily involved in the turnaround of Dogecoin, revival of the community in 2020 and 21, that culminated with Elon Musk obviously starting to promote the project and actively engaging with it. So that's on our marketing side and operations. And then I have been involved in Syscoin, which is a smart contract layer built on top of Bitcoin. Another OG project, live since 2012. Coin is trading since 2014. It also is the oldest Bitcoin-based layer 2. Again, now there is a lot of hype with many
Yeah.
projects saying they're building something on top of Bitcoin, whilst under the hood, when you look at it, it's not that much. So we have come from projects that have built some of the earliest and most fundamental infrastructure pieces in the crypto ecosystem. I also previously worked directly with ETHCore team. ETHCore is the team that literally built Ethereum. So this comes from our collaboration with Gavin Wood, who was our co-founder in Ambrosus, and worked on a number of early stage infrastructure projects that basically became the validators of the earliest version of Ethereum and the initial parity signer model and some other frameworks that became the earliest infrastructure bits of Ethereum. The rest of the team, whom you can see on the website, they also come from STEM backgrounds, have between 10 and 20 years in crypto and AI. Again, not just a narrative, hype-driven style, but actually building the backbone and infrastructure. And we have a number of cryptographers also from different parts. We have several computer science people out of Harvard University and Oxford University as well. So we are proud to have a very strong technical background. And we obviously have a number of new team members who have joined us over the past few weeks and are about to join. Some of them we're going to announce in the next few weeks. We have a couple of very big hires whom we're also onboarding as we speak.
Forward to that. I gotta say, very impressive with your team. You guys have a stacked team, bunch of OGs with successful projects behind you guys. So, Private AI offers a whole suite of features and tools. Can you share some of the most notable ones?
Yes, so I will talk about the tools and features in the context of our overall architecture. So I think that'll make it easier to digest.
Okay.
So generally, I prefer to look at our tools holistically as part of the system. And I will mention them obviously individually as we go. So generally our process begins with the systematic construction of knowledge graphs that are extracted from scientific texts. So we use the natural language processing techniques, in particular SPACY, to extract these entities and relationships from papers. And then we transform unstructured text into structured graphs that represents the semantic nuances of the research content. So these knowledge graphs, they essentially become the visual representation of multiple sources of information, and they silently accumulate what we call smart data. Smart data in this particular context means data that is expressive in a way that's suitable for AI systems, and AI systems can easily read them and understand them. So this framework is very useful for the machine learning economy.
Mhm.
Most of the existing data marketplaces, they don't focus on this restructuring of data. So they just provide mostly raw, unstructured data or single source data that is of very limited use for training LLMs. And in our particular case, from day one, our goal was not to build just a data marketplace. It was to build a data marketplace that's suitable for the companies who are all rushing to train their LLMs, who want to get the database edge compared to their competitors. Because what we have right now, AI models, they become sort of a commodity. They're a digital commodity that anybody can spin out and they can launch and try and work on them. The difficult part is sourcing the high quality data, and not only sourcing it, but also structuring it in a way that their systems can understand. So this is the basically our approach with the backbone of our data sharing platform. It's actually currently live on demo.privateai.com, so people can check it out and play with it. And one other useful tool that's also already activated there is this AI librarian assistant. So it's an AI agent that helps users navigate the data clusters and also helps have a single point of interaction with data coming from multiple sources. So this cross database feature is also a unique aspect of what we've built in Private AI. So that's the status quo for now. What we're aiming to build also in the forthcoming weeks and months is a couple of things I can already mention. The first part is using predictive graphs. Predictive graphs are suitable for stuff like personalized medicine, for instance. They can create individual or customized medical treatments and improve patient outcomes. The way this is unique is that obviously right now the healthcare system is generally built on statistics on what suits the biggest population chunk. And that's why you very often have, I'm sure most people listening to this will have had a family member, a friend, or even themselves, having a headache, taking a medicine, it doesn't help, or having some other condition where the doctor prescribed something and it doesn't provide the desired effect. The explanation for that is very simple. Most pharmaceuticals, they're just designed for what's kind of suitable for the biggest chunk of population. It can be 50%, can be 70%, can be as low as 30%, depending on the subsector. So you get prescribed with whatever is statistically expected to work best for you, but that's super inefficient, and that's why obviously the whole healthcare sector is also often unable to treat diseases. Databases coming from different cross sections, they could account for stuff like genomics, they could account for stuff like epigenetics or other individual aspects, and that could play a role into what could be prescribed for particular patients. That's just one use case I'm illustrating to give the understanding for how this works. Obviously, you can have a number of very useful applications to that technology in many other realms. It could be done in the legal space, when you are getting the legal advice that's not just vanilla legal advice that's like, oh, where should I open my company? Well, you can get a basic advice, like you can open your company in country A or country B, but probably that question will be very much dependent on what kind of unique aspects your company has, what kind of data you have, what kind of regulations you expect to have, what kind of talent or any other aspect. So it could be used for legal advice, could be used for healthcare advice, could be used for a myriad of different use cases where just an average Gen AI advisor is not going to cut it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, OpenAI, Perplexity, Claude, or any other Gen AI models today, they just give you an advice of an average person, which is super impressive from, I don't know if you think about it from the 5 year ago perspective, that we have the system being able to give us advice of an average lawyer, average doctor, that's amazing, right? But we already have it. That's already normal. So we can stop saying, wow, how awesome and transformative it is, and actually say, well, I don't just need an average doctor. I don't just need an average lawyer. I don't just need an average scientist. And that's kind of where these predictive graphs are very useful. Some other parts are also basically relevant. The other tool I want to mention is what we built for modeling different risks. So building upon the previous point I mentioned with personalized medicine, we're building longevity risks modeling graphs. So these predictive knowledge graphs, they can model different scenarios, such as changes in the healthcare technology status quo, improvements to lifestyle, or social factors that can influence life expectancy. So we can look not only at the internal factors that I mentioned with genomics and epigenetics, but also the external factors, because in the end, you have to look at both to get some comprehensive information. So these are the two tools which we're going to release in the forthcoming weeks and months, and we're also very excited about them.
I really have to say, I'm extremely impressed with what you guys are building. You guys are really revolutionizing your industry and not just following the whole AI narrative. And that leads me to ask the crypto AI narrative. It's gained a lot of traction. It's extremely hot. What makes private AI unique and separate from all the competition out there?
Yeah, so indeed, nowadays everybody and their uncle in crypto is trying to ride the AI narratives. So generally, whenever investors ask me how to tell, the hype only companies from the real ones, I tell them to look at the background of the team, their skills. Do they actually have the necessary expertise in AI domain? Have they maybe worked in the space before it became hot and popular? And that's where I think 95% of the companies, they can be pretty much filtered out. So if you look at most crypto AI projects, especially the ones that have emerged over the past year and a half,
Yeah.
ever since OpenAI became a household name, they started with some lofty ambitions and big promises that most of them didn't even make technical sense. Some of them did, but they were just big promises, big expectations. They were going to merge AI with Web3, whatever that was supposed to mean. And they all ended up running launchpads or chatbots. That's not AI. That's not really transformative, but, it worked for some companies. On our side, so as mentioned previously, the team does come from the heavy AI background, including the folks from Singularity Net I've already mentioned. We also had prior background working on Numerai, which is one of the oldest crypto AI projects in the world as well. They launched back in 2015, 9 years ago, and they do crowdsourcing of AI models for hedge funds. We very much like this project. Vitalik is a big fan of this project. He's been bringing it up recently again as a use case for how AI could actually meaningfully be merged with Web3 philosophy. So we got inspired a lot from our work with Numerai, where they crowdsourced models, AI models, and different scientific data sets only pertaining to financial markets. We got inspired by that to expand the use cases. Hey, if you could crowdsource this data and run a real hedge fund powered by AI models, could you not do the same with scientific processes? Could you not run lab research with crowdsourced models? Could you not create new products or intellectual property on crowdsourced data? And can you not create interesting incentivization mechanisms for scientists and researchers to tap into those markets? Because right now, if you're an early stage researcher, you don't actually get any opportunities to monetize your early stage stuff. I mean, you've invented a patent. What next? You can either try and apply for grants, You can attempt to go to VCs, but probably 90% of VCs will dismiss a scientist who only holds a patent,
Yeah.
unless it's some super specific, super valuable, obvious use case patent, which is very rare. Most of them will be dismissed, and most scientists are obviously not entrepreneurs. They're not necessarily able to package the projects. They don't necessarily know how to approach this, or they prefer to just research because that's what they do. So you do need to create them opportunities to find collaborators, to use the open source spirit of crypto to find co-founders. And the interesting aspect of what they could do is tokenize their IP, tokenize their data sets, and access some liquid markets where they could actually fractionalize some of their IP or data sets and get access to liquidity. And this is the interesting opportunity we provide. So this is something that we're doing differently. We do come not from the mindset of, hey, we're building something using crypto and AI, let's find a use case. But we actually started with a use case, started with this journey in the scientific world, trying to understand their pain points and the opportunities for how one could create startups that could grow, that could scale, that could attract funding. And from there, we actually built these frameworks, we built these solutions that actually the markets were missing. So I think that is what makes us unique on the team side with our prior experience, with the approach and go to market, with not starting with the product, but starting with a problem and building a product for that particular problem. And then obviously the product itself, talking about it. The interesting thing about what we've built is that we are the first project in the space that actually launched with this comprehension of how to make the quality of data and quantity of new data sources better and not just cheaper. So most companies are just looking for common sense ways to do it. They look at scraping, they look at raw data importing and so on. We're focused on actually using it in better quality, because in the end, that's what the biggest R&D endeavors have. The AI companies are the most well-funded companies in the world. They have literal trillions of dollars behind them in funding. So they're funding, well, I'm just talking about, let's say, Microsoft, Nvidia, Google, Amazon, that's nearly 10 trillion in value behind them. And basically, and then there's surrogate AI companies, whether it's OpenAI or some other big companies who are anyway owned by the big tech. They all have unlimited financial resources. So it's nothing to do with, hey, can we make it cheaper? Can we make it better? Can we make it more valuable? And then the second part is also why we're building it on blockchain, is that there are already enough of these big tech giants who already possess all of our data, who already have unlimited resources, who have market capitalizations bigger than nearly every country in the world by GDP. So they have huge power, financial and otherwise, and technological. So we're trying to find a way to make it more decentralized, to make it more democratic, to enable the small guy to also participate in it and not just be a slave of a large corporate. So basically, to train this meaningfully in a decentralized environment, we need to also have the opportunities to access data that the big giants do not have, and they will probably not have it just for one simple reason, because it may be too small scale for them, or they're looking at larger projects and they overlook at small and medium-sized research communities, which provide a lot of interesting insights. So we need a lot of data to train these powerful, accurate, and high-quality AI algorithms in a distributed environment. And the closed door policies of most biotech companies and commercial research groups, they aren't really making it easier for independent researchers to find these fresh insights, to find these perspectives in the raw fields of science, such as, for instance, longevity, digital health, or drug repurposing. These are the areas we're very active on. There are plenty of enthusiastic community members, researchers, and scientists who want to break into it, and they're unable because obviously big companies are very secretive with their data. They keep it behind closed doors. And that's why, by the way, the spirit of crypto is so useful here, because I believe that longevity has a lot of similarities with how crypto space is built. And even though at the surface, most people, when they first hear us speech, they say, well, I don't really understand how longevity can be similar to crypto. They couldn't be any more different. Well, if you look at it from the technology point of view, indeed, one is biotech and healthcare, another one is distributed ledger systems. However, What they are similar in is the more philosophical aspects. Firstly, they both try and solve the biggest challenges of humanity. Crypto was created to give people sovereignty over their money. And that was a big and daunting task. That was something that governments and stakeholders for many years, and even up to today, by the way, they have been dismissing it. Okay, that's not going to happen. It's impossible, etc. I think we can safely say that crypto has gained a critical mass and is here to stay. It's already transformed the global financial environment and continuing to do so. Similarly with longevity, it wants to beat death. I'm sure most people will be acquainted with Brian Johnson, who is probably the biggest poster boy of the space. But generally, there have been scientists and researchers for decades, having this ambitious, probably nearly impossible task at hand, but they've been applying scientific research to solve it. So just like crypto, it attracted the crazy people with a lot of brains. So it's crazy and smart people trying to solve big challenges. And because of that, just like crypto, you have people who are idea driven, who are philosophical, who are very political about it. It's not about, hey, I can make money in this. People can make money in many different areas. And it's not about, hey, I want to research something. It's like, well, it's a problem that's so difficult to solve. I really will spend my weekends doing that. I will spend my, late night hours doing that. And that's why in PrivateAI, all of our team members, we have previously exited different startups, and most of our advisors, they have launched big companies. It's something we work on because it's got also the philosophical or almost like religious, whatever you call it, spirit. We're trying to solve some huge challenge we're personally invested in. We all want to live longer. If we can live forever, it's going to be amazing. And we've realized that there is just, even with all the global scientific community, there is not a single human brain that can help analyze and process all of these different metrics, all of these different data sets. And that's where AI comes into play, because longevity is a transdisciplinary environment. So basically, PrivateAI not only serves to meet the needs of those who seek out this high quality content, but also we provide these game theory based incentive models for data suppliers to compete with each other based on their integrity, quality, and size of their data sets that they supply on our platform, and also for the chance of getting the protocol rewards. But also it's about them being part of the community, getting the recognition for their scientific contribution that they make. That is not only some paper, oh, hey, I got published in a scientific magazine. That's what academics do for life. And unfortunately, most people never read those magazines, even when they are experts in this field. In every particular niche, you typically have 2,000 academic articles per month coming out. No human being can ever realistically read even a fraction of that. So it just gets published for the sake of publishing. What we want to do is give people the sense of meaningfulness to their work and to enable them to connect, to collaborate, and to make their research papers also contribute to some larger research, but also not only in a purely altruistic way of, hey, I'm going to give this paper for free. No, you can also get paid in crypto for supplying these papers. So we've built this mix between giving people a sense of purpose, sense of belonging, sense of community, whilst at the same time giving them a financial opportunity to earn extra income, which for many scientists and researchers is also a big deal. So our implementation basically involves sourcing these new research papers, continuously updating our knowledge graphs with latest information that people are incentivized to provide. And our system basically permits detection of different mechanisms that could help generally advance the scientific discourse and maintain high quality of data and reliability.
I really have to say, all of your answers have been extremely detailed and really well put together. You touched on crowdsourced intelligence. Do you think it can be effectively utilized in scientific endeavors? And in what ways can AI be leveraged to optimize the process of achieving groundbreaking scientific advancements?
Yeah, I will answer your question with an anecdotal story here. So just a few months ago, researchers actually used AI to read letters on the papyrus scroll that was damaged by the blast of heat during the Pompeii eruption that happened over 2,000 years ago. And one scientist in particular in that research groups spent years developing different algorithms to digitally unwrap the scrolls and detect the presence of ink from the changes it produced in the papyrus fibers. you obviously could not unscroll this scroll because it would have been destroyed. So you had to do it whilst it would have been still in this rolled condition. And basically, he built a very useful framework for these algorithms, and he released it and posted a challenge for fellow scientists to solve this challenge and compete for funding. And together, basically, different independent researchers created a dream team, and they developed an AI-based ink detection code that generated digital rendering of the text on that chart scroll. So thanks to their specific work, 5% of the first scroll has now been deciphered. And before those times, everybody in the community told them, well, it's pretty much impossible. You can't open it because once you do open it, you're going to destroy it. You can't analyze it in the closed form. And a piece of ancient civilization and ancient history would have been basically destroyed. We would have missed a small puzzle of our ancient history. And thanks to this approach, they managed to decipher it. So they solved what was the scientific community, what they believed was impossible, and they proved that it's doable. So I like to use that one little anecdote to illustrate what can be done with efficient crowdsourcing. That was done in a very, by the way, kind of low-tech amateur way, because they were archaeologists who just tried to work with their colleagues in different departments. They were using different university forums and so on. So this was very inefficient, and nevertheless, they managed to do this breakthrough. So at PrivateAI, we believe that we can create hundreds, thousands more of these scientific communities, of these research communities that could collaborate with each other, that could pose these different challenges and offer different bounties, and that collectively these scientists and researchers could find each other, find those opportunities, and help solve these problems. And of course, everybody dreams of solving a scientific challenge that will push our progress forward, that will make some scientific discovery, or that will make a piece of our ancient history maybe change the way we interpret how our civilization evolved. So all of that is just what our goal is. So we want to give humanity the opportunity to have meaningful advances on unsolved problems, whether they look at creating new patents, creating new treatments for some diseases, solving some rare challenges, or possibly find a drug that could cure aging. So the power of the hive mind can be amplified with AI, and that's what we want to drive forward. So we want to use this crowdsourcing framework with AI to create sort of a hive mind, and that could unlock a lot of challenges. Some of them we probably are not even aware of, or we cannot imagine. Just like the internet created so many opportunities that people in the 70s and 80s could not have imagined, in a similar way, we're creating infrastructure. We're not even sure about all the opportunities that could be done with this crowdsourcing model.
I really love that story, and that really shows you how putting together the great minds can bring groundbreaking scientific achievements and advancements, and you guys will be replicating that over and over again. So I have to ask, can you dive into the utility of PGPT, please?
Sure, yes. So at the basics, PGPT serves as the mechanism that incentivizes scientists and researchers to contribute to the ecosystem by producing high quality research and publishing it. So the mechanism can take different forms. The most basic one is straightforward, awarding tokens for peer-reviewed publications, for any kind of data sets or IP that's uploaded on the system. So that's the primary initial payout for just making the content available, making the data available. The interesting thing starts happening after this data starts getting used by companies who are training their AI models. So the more frequent these data submitted by individual researchers is accessed by a particular data analytics company or any company that's training its own AI, the more frequent their payout will accumulate. So basically, similarly to how some NFTs have form of royalty inbuilt into them, the more frequent they're resold, the more frequent the percentage from the commission of sale will go to the original creator. In a similar manner, we reward original researchers and scientists for their data set. So if it does become a blockbuster, they will also be able to make more money of it because it's going to be used more often for training purposes or data analytics purposes. At the same time, if their data is not revolutionary, but it's still valuable for the system, they will still get certain payouts upon submitting it to the system. And if it's going to be used in some smaller endeavors, they will also get smaller payouts. So this is the most basic form. The more advanced form involves offering different grants, bounties, or fellowships to researchers. That's also something similar to how different grant making applications are done. But obviously, we want to get the bureaucracy away from this, minimize the paperwork, and enable just scientists and researchers to quickly crowdfund to get funding or liquidity for their research, for their innovation projects, and so on.
Yeah.
We do have a framework where their IP could be tokenized. So you could look at tokenized patents or tokenized data sets or intellectual property. So the goal of this mechanism is just generally to promote innovation and advance the scientific knowledge within the ecosystem, whilst also providing, of course, different incentives for researchers to engage and contribute to the growth of development of our platform. And initially, what we have also discovered, so in the early years of development of the project, we generally discovered that there are few startups in this domain, partially for the reasons I outlined earlier, because in the end, scientists are scientists, they're not necessarily entrepreneurs. But secondly, it's also because there was generally a lot of, there were no incentives for scientists or researchers to provide their data. So they could either just give it away for free, which some of them are willing to do, by the way, but some others, if they know they spend many years of research on that or budgets, they will be reluctant to do so. But at the same time, they don't have much, they can't monetize it in meaningful ways, or they can't utilize it. So they just keep this data and it remains dormant, it remains unused. So the goal of this token is to provide these intense incentives to create the velocity of this data. Then, by providing rewards for different scientific articles, we of course aim to just generally attract top talent and create a vibrant research community that could help drive this platform forward, creating this self-sustaining community. And importantly, since we're a data-driven digital economy, we have potentially unlimited amounts of data that could be utilized within the network, whilst at the same time, the overall supply of the token is fixed. So generally, if you use basic monetary economics principle, the larger the size of the digital economy with a fixed supply of the token, the more demand for the token, and the higher velocity of the token within the system is. So we basically have created a crypto economic model that also encourages people to utilize the token for their research. They can get paid out for it, but at the same time, since most scientists and researchers, they're not ready for crypto yet, so they want something simple. We do have fiat on ramps connected to it, so they can get paid out in dollars. And then people can arbitrage between the native token and the USDT and earn a commission of 5 to 10%. So this approach is similar to how, say, Cosmos is doing it with their delegated proof of stake, when you just delegate your tokens to somebody else and you get 90% of rewards, and they just manage it all for you. So if we talk about the technical infrastructure, that's the approach we can do. If we just talk about purely utility aspect of the token within the system, BNB of Binance is another useful example of how the token could be used for getting the same services at a discount compared to paying it in dollars or in Bitcoin. So in a similar way, we're creating arbitrage opportunities. So if scientists or researchers want to have the full rewards, full opportunities to make money from having this system in place, they can use the native token. If the native token is too confusing for them, there are plenty of arbitrage players already in our ecosystem who will just give them dollars or any other currency. They'll be paid out for the research, and they don't have to worry about crypto at all. So these are the basic two functions of the token. And then obviously at the back end, for anybody who wants to set up their storage node to provide the proofs of data for the system, they also obviously can use the native token to spin up their node and start generating fees from both the marketplace and from data storage requests.
Thank you for diving into the utility of PGBT. Sounds like a bunch of valuable utility for holders. Do you think AI in crypto is a fad? We're seeing a lot of narratives come and go. Why do you think this will be different?
Yes, so generally, I don't think it's a fad. You obviously, just like in every cycle of certain narratives, taking the imaginations of investors and the community, you have the same thing going on here. I think there are So obviously there's a lot of noise, there are a lot of projects that are just riding the hype, etc. But at the same time, I do think that it's not a fad, it's an interesting convergence. I base that even not so much on my own opinion, because I'm not really a huge expert. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I do have experts who help me make the right decisions. And based on all of the discussions that I've had with some of the smartest people in the world, in the worlds of AI, in the worlds of crypto, generally in the software space, AI hype is real. I mean, I think I
Yeah.
don't kind of have to pitch AI. AI is here, and I think the impact of it is definitely deserves comparison to the emergence of the internet itself, in terms of how much it has already transformed humanity and how much more we have ahead of us. I was earlier this year at Davos. There was Bill Gates holding a small talk,
Wow.
and obviously he talked about AI, and he said it's exciting. It's not nothing like I've ever seen before. So Bill Gates obviously has lived through, I think, 5 or 6 cycles of AI, starting from whatever the early 70s, the mid 70s. There have been a number of AI hypes, obviously, in the past, and he says, "No, this time I'm excited. This time we see things that previously we could not have imagined. We only thought were theoretically possible, or that was just science fiction. We now have it just used by school kids.
Yeah.
We're doing research with it's here. Retail and the general population is rapidly learning how to use it. So that's the first aspect. So AI here, and it's real. Crypto is also here and it's real. I mentioned it earlier. Again, I think we're all, at least in this community, definitely agree on that. So we have 2 pieces of technology that have already gained critical mass of adoption and critical mass of technological progress that enables it to fulfill these tasks. Now, AI obviously has a bit of a hardware bottleneck,
Yeah.
which is why Nvidia is pumping like crazy, which is why most of the chip suppliers, they have sold out even for year 2025. They are unable to accept new orders. So we are going to have a bit of a bottleneck on the hardware side that could, slow down a bit, not substantially, but slow down a bit the challenges of meaningfully converging AI and crypto and solving some of the process of distributed compute or using encrypted data for machine learning. And these are some of the challenges that we're both working on in the R&D of PrivateAI. And we also have an ecosystem-based project we're gonna announce very soon that is already building on top of PrivateAI to specifically solve hardware-related challenges to bring the AI and Web3 convergence in a more meaningful realm. So I would say generally there is a meaningful connection between the AI and distributed ledger technologies. The generally with crypto being a digital native primitive, it's the first primitive that's native digitally, because the current financial system, it's a digital replication of legacy systems or real world assets or whatever. Crypto is natively digital. And for AI, natively digital primitives are actually more suitable for interoperability. So that's why there is also a lot of excitement about people who understand that blockchain and Web3 could be the rails with which on which the new financial system could operate, and AI can natively interact with these systems. So if we do build distributed AI agents, if we do build properly distributed compute, if we do build properly on-chain data, then we can construct on-chain AI agents. And that, in my opinion, is one of the most interesting areas of development in the space. And once that goes live, it can be both interesting and scary. I have also talked recently to a couple of people who co-founded large companies. One of them was Facebook, one of them was Skype. That's as precise as I can go on that. And basically, those people are very scared about about this distributed AI. They are concerned about that potentially being the end of humanity, because if you could have Bitcoin is unstoppable financial instrument. They said if you create the unstoppable AI, which becomes self-aware, like some of them were really like, you are guys, you're building what's going to destroy the world.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid concern on the one hand. On the other hand, we have the problem of just like with nuclear weapons, and which one part I also did not mention in my introduction of my background because it would have taken too long to go into everything. I used to work at the United Nations, and my first job was at the Weapons of Mass Destruction Department, where we basically dealt with nuclear weapons. And that's how I got into crypto, by the way, because nuclear weapons are all based on game theory. And when I was researching how countries could tactically, not use, it's all about not using nuclear weapons, obviously, because using them is the end of the world. So how countries use game theory models to not destroy each other. And I was researching different game theoretical models, and that's how I stumbled across Bitcoin. That's how I got into crypto. Started with nuclear weapons.
What a
But
shift.
anyway, so game theory basically dictates that it's all about, this prisoner dilemma and all this stuff about who makes the first move and how that move will affect the other moves available to the counterparty. And basically, with nuclear weapons, that was the goal of, well, nuclear weapons can theoretically destroy humanity. However, if one party has already developed nuclear weapons, it makes sense for everybody else to join the race if they don't want to be oppressed by that party. So once the US has demonstrated their nuclear bomb on Japan, Soviet Union immediately started saying, okay, then we need to do it quickly. Germany tried to do the same, but obviously Germany was in the middle of losing World War II. So basically, but every superpower tried to put research and development into nuclear weapons because they realized it's already here. We can't stop it if we're just going to say it's bad, but some other country has it. They can dictate their terms. They can be the master of the world. We still have that continuation, by the way, with obviously the recent geopolitical stuff between Israel and Iran having the nuclear capacity now, North Korea potentially developing it. So this stuff still continues. Now, AI for me is just the extension of the same logic that it's a super powerful technology. Whoever makes the most powerful AI will be the king of the world, and all the superpowers understand it. That's why there is a big race between China and the United States. Then obviously Britain, India, Russia, a few other countries are, also doing big work on that front because they realize whoever builds that stuff first will be the master of the world. And that's why even if there are concerns that this system can potentially lead to the demise of humanity, you can't stop it. So basically, it's the countries are already developed. They've already developed these advanced systems, and the goal here is to have a distributed system which could maybe level the playing field and have access opportunities for different countries, including those countries that will be left behind. And there are already countries left behind by the so-called digital divide, whereby the most powerful and well-funded countries in the world, again, the superpowers, they have the lion's share of development of this AI, whilst the smaller countries will simply have to access it. So by providing the alternative, the decentralized community-driven alternative to have this AI, it could possibly offer them opportunities to do it without having to rely on the big partners, without having to be involved in politics. Because one thing I really like about Bitcoin is that it's apolitical. I mean, it's both political and apolitical, but the point of Bitcoin is that it's just for everybody. We don't want to let, the politicians, the central bankers, the governments, or whoever to mess with it. Simple rule. We play this game. If you don't like the game, go and create your own blockchain. And that's why you have thousands of blockchain where people can create their own rules. It's amazing. So I think with AI, we could have the same, where we could have AI communities, AI research consortia, AI commons. And that's the interesting opportunity that's here. So I am still optimistic about the value of the distributed AI. And I think we can already see the world today. And I think I can safely say that just with centralized powers controlling weapons or controlling technology or finance, the world is already not a very nice place, right? So we already have wars, we have politics, we have hatred, bigotism, populism, you name it. So no matter what kind of political affiliation you have, I think most people kind of agree it's getting more insane, getting more radicalized, whether you're a bit left-wing or a bit right-wing. Is super extreme right now, and I'm a bit pessimistic about where this all is going because we have normalized so many things that used to be unacceptable. And again, irrespective of what kind of political, I try to say I'm just a normal person, like whatever. I just want to have a normal life, live and let live and whatever. But on all sides of the spectrum, we have crazy people. And unfortunately, it's getting normalized that we're radicalized. There is hatred and so on. And it definitely plays into, well into the, powers that be. They can monetize war, etc., etc. So we might already destroy each other with or without a decentralized AI. But I feel like decentralized AI can offer us hope to make this open source, collaborative, even playing field framework. And that's why I'm so excited about this convergence between crypto with all its ideology, with all its ideas, with all the spirits, with all the opportunities that AI can offer.
Man, I have to say it's really refreshing speaking to you. As you mentioned earlier, you have all these new projects just spinning up an idea of AI, and you're not really seeing like substance, real product, and a very impressive team. So I have to give it out to you guys. I'm really impressed with everything you've presented today. And your answers are really well put together and very well detailed. I'm actually learning a lot. I have to ask, how do you envision AI reshaping the landscape of scientific research and innovation in the coming years? And what role does private AI play in this transformation?
Yeah, so I think the generally I've now talked about the grand vision and amazing big things, but as a project, as an entrepreneur, I have to be also specific. So I'll scale it down here to how we specifically aim to, help this transformation, what could be done at not at a lofty idealistic level, but actually at the product side. So the most important improvement is basically helping the graph system to get the capability to find the hidden links between different studies. So the goal we're trying to make is to find those patterns that are invisible today. And that's what, in my opinion, could really unlock science, because science today is still pretty much a fragmented and siloed area. There are mathematicians, there are physics people, biologists, IT people, and then there are some cross-section areas like bioinformatics, or genomics, or some other areas that try and combine these different departments, different research areas. But the more multidisciplinary it becomes, the more unwieldy the research becomes, because you have different frameworks, you have different semantics, you have different modes of working, you have different kinds of scientific rigor, you have different kinds of evidence-based processes that exist, and that creates really difficult, that makes it very difficult to collaborate. So we come into epistemology, the science of knowledge itself, that we need to delve into. And by the way, most people just kind of assume AI is all about coding and IT. Actually, AI is rooted in epistemology, the science of knowledge, how knowledge is generated, how knowledge is created, how knowledge is transformed and communicated to other parties. So I think it's very important. And I'm like 99% of projects in AI space I talk to, they never really think about epistemology. They're like, oh, we're building this cool tool, cool tool or whatever that does this and that and that. Sometimes it's valuable, right? I'm not saying it's useless. Sometimes they solve a particular narrow thing. You don't need to be a philosopher if you're creating a trading bot, or if you're creating some chat bot or whatever. But if you're actually talking about creating some kind of a digital assistant, your digital counterparty, or just an entity that will probably one day be self-aware, that will be alive in the digital realm, you can't really just ignore epistemology. You can't ignore the evolution of human brain. So we intend to actually foster those kinds of collaborations in the scientific space that are currently just broken down into silos. We need to bring them all together. So the most important part we're going to focus on is how to find these links between different studies, how to connect different databases, how to connect different research entities, and then streamline what was previously stalled into productive innovation. So the goal for PrivateAI is to establish one-of-a-kind real-time monitoring and intelligence solution that can identify and aggregate and explain different newsworthy events in scientific space, in particular in biotech, for clinical trials, FDA approvals or any other information that could be relevant to the longevity space. And by combining these multiple approaches, we can then create some rich and informative representation of what is certain in the form of a knowledge graph, because right now it's all just based on statistical probabilities. There is a good saying that there is truth, there is lie, and there is statistics. And unfortunately, that transforms into science. Lots of statistics is super questionable, even if it's not intended to be a lie, just different methodologies of collating data make it super inefficient. So we operate in the field of probabilities. But when we combine 2 or 3 or 4 data sets, and each of them, let's say, has a probability of, hey, that's 70% probability it's correct. Well, 70% is actually still not great, but it's decent. But if you have 2 different sources with 70% each, that's 70% times 70%, that's 49%. So when you have 2 sources with 70% uncertainty, you have less than a flip of a coin of certainty. If you have 3 of them, you multiply by another 0.7, which gives you 0.26, which is like 1/4. You can't really cure somebody from a disease with 1/4 certainty that is going to help, and maybe another 1/4 that they're going to die. So that's super inefficient. We need to bring it all the way to 1, and that requires us to combine this data meticulously in the form of knowledge graphs, and I enable some more reliable and robust analysis of this stuff and so on. And that's why, coming back to the area we're going to focus on, it's longevity space. We have all come together to PrivateAI, not to start, hey, you know what, we want to create some kind of AI project, or we want to create some kind of a crypto project. When we came together, we tried to find opportunities to unlock the value of longevity research. That started 4 years ago. That's still what's at the very core of our project. We're not just doing AI for the sake of AI, or doing crypto for the sake of crypto, but we're actually trying to think how we can meaningfully disrupt. Actually, before even disrupt, you could be used for the scientific space. But for longevity, we actually need to create it, because there's a lot of hype around longevity. There is a lot of excitement, especially COVID kind of accelerated the interest of public in longevity, because longevity, it has 2 aspects. One of them is increasing human lifespan, but one of them is increasing human health span, because scientists generally believe it's more realistic for us to just live longer life healthily than just live longer lifespan, as in more years. And anyway, there are plenty of people who say, what's the point of living past 100 if you're going to be hooked up to a lot of machines, eating food from tubes and whatever? So there are 2 schools of thought here, but generally, one way or another, COVID definitely gave people some kind of a massive wake-up call about their health. And many people started thinking about their priorities in life, about, what it means to live, how we should live healthy. So I believe that kind of also contributed to this whole popularization of a healthy lifestyle, of longevity, which used to be in the earlier days kind of more for either billionaires or ultra-rich people who obviously, once you have everything in life, you start thinking, well, what do I not have? I don't have eternal youth. I don't have eternal life. But it has made it more mainstream now that actually people of all walks of life start thinking about that, how I can improve my health, how I can contribute to this, and so on. So, but at the same time, longevity, life extension technologies, is a transdisciplinary science. It requires knowledge from dozens of different areas of science, and it requires them to all be put together and to be analyzed. And it's so fragmented, it's so early stage. So our big goal for the next few years is to focus on this particular niche and help this particular area of science to be transformed. At the same time, the infrastructure we have is general purpose. It enables one to solve scientific challenges in any domain. I previously mentioned legal examples. We also have one working group that collaborates with us. They try and collect some climate data to finally solve some climate-related stuff. Again, coming back into politics, I used to work at the UN, which is a very pro-climate, ESG sustainability that was all essentially created by the UN in many ways, driven by the corporate interest there and so on and so forth. But the popularization of this was done through the UN with Sustainable Development Goals and previously Millennium Development Goals. But the point is, whether you whether you agree that is climate change real or should we do something with it or not, I'm not going to put a political answer to this question. There are enough intelligent people who say one thing, enough people who say the other thing. We want to get the truth. So we have one scientific group that works on collating climate-related data that can finally put a scientific answer to it. Because once more, the thing I mentioned earlier about the stuff that, it's unreliable, and we get more radicalized opinions. Unfortunately, the truth is disappearing because it's all politics, it's all bigotry, it's all just claims. We want to get back to the truth. And by the way, we're not even at the worst stage yet, because the age of AI deepfakes is only beginning.
Yeah.
Soon, nothing you see on the screen will be, you cannot trust anything you see on the screen. You cannot trust any information. I think it's gonna be a very nightmarish scenario, and it might make people just more kind of localized, because if you cannot believe anything you see on the screen, you'll just kind of like try and only believe what you have locally, or trusted people whom it's going to be a mess. So we want to also create some kind of objective scientific truth engine, and that's what we believe we can do here, so that we could at least have data-driven decisions, scientific-driven decisions, rigorously and in the open source environment validated by the community, and not just say something because somebody pays for it. Because there is definitely enough of greenwashing, where people make climate change related claims which are completely untrue. On the other hand, there are also plenty of scientific evidences of heat waves and so on. Something is happening, and it would be really great if we could have scientific answers to that, and not answers by either people who are paid to say climate change is real, or they're paid to say climate change is fake. We just need to go to the science. We need it to be apolitical, and that's what we're really going to do with all our hearts and minds.
Wow, you guys are really a pioneer in this space. I've learned a ton in this AMA. For everybody watching that wants to get involved with private AI, how can they support the project? And do you have any important upcoming dates people should watch out for?
Yes, so we are definitely looking for more data enthusiasts, no matter what kind of scientific space they come from. As I mentioned, we have certain priority areas like longevity in the broader sense of that word, but we also have a number of scientific groups and researchers from different domains who just saw the value of the tools we provide, and they're forming their own communities, they're forming their own DAOs, they're forming their own collaborations. So we're very happy to engage more of those stakeholders. We actually already are supporting with grants a couple of projects driven by scientists and researchers. So we do have more grants available. And if there are any interesting projects that want to try out and they have some interesting intellectual property or scientific research they feel they could utilize through our platform, we would be very interested in talking to those people. Likewise, we have rolled out the first iteration of the product. It's live. Anybody with a crypto wallet can connect and try it out. They can upload their data already. They can try it out. We welcome more users. We welcome their feedback. If they provide some interesting feedback or opinions, or maybe bug fixes or some new features, we always have bounties available to reward those people who can provide us with some interesting insights. So we're more than happy to forge more strong partnerships. One other area we're working on relentlessly is setting up more collaborations with universities. We already have ongoing collaborations at places like Oxford, Cambridge, Harvard, MIT, Stanford, ETH Zurich, and NUS. We're happy to expand to more universities. We're happy to talk to people from more different research departments. So if somebody is listening to this and they're saying, wow, I have an amazing project and I've been waiting for something to unlock its potential, we very much are interested in collaborating with that. For the broader crypto community, we're always interested in having more node operators. So we are onboarding people who run their own validator infrastructure, who can help us host the data. We are also creating a marketplace for distributed compute. So as I mentioned earlier, in one of the bottlenecks, the hardware and compute power is very precious right now. And we actually have built a mechanism that permits people to crowdsource AI compute power. It's going to be one of the ecosystem projects launching on top of PrivateAI. And they are also looking for any people who might have GPUs or any other kind of hardware available to solve AI-related challenges. So they could also get rewards. We're happy to collaborate with folks like that, and they can set up their own nodes. And generally, yeah, we definitely follow the spirit of crowdsourcing. So any interesting collaborations that people could offer us, we'll be glad to do it. In terms of the overall token launch, we plan to do it this month. So we already have a number of stakeholders. We're going to make an announcement about all the partners who have joined our round. We have previously completed a public round as well. So the excitement is here. The community is already using the platform, eager to start doing more. And we also are, I think I can already announce it here, though we haven't announced it anywhere else, but it's not super secret, so I'm fine with that. We're going to be speaking. I'm going to be speaking at Super AI in Singapore in 1 month time. And we're going to unveil a new product there and a new ecosystem project. So whoever is coming to Singapore is welcome to join us. And we will have also an exhibition there. A lot of our team members will converge. And we will also have a giveaway opportunity for our community members whom we can give free tickets to the summit. And we'll be glad to collaborate also with people who can help us do meaningful partnerships in Singapore or Southeast Asia. So these are some of the things to look forward to.
Amazing. You guys all heard it here first. And secondly, I want to congratulate you for all the work you guys have done. It's extremely impressive. So last question is, what do you think about DEXTools in the future of DeFi? I'd love to get your input on that.
Yes, so just like how I talked about the fact that we need to create a framework where it's all data-driven, where people can discover what's under the hood and look at the data metrics, not just claims, not just, somebody's opinion and so on. From that perspective, I've really been a fan of DEXTools for a while. They allow people to discover new things. They allow people to look under the hood. So follow the trends, follow the different stakeholders playing in the ecosystem. So I think it's one of the most interesting and valuable tools in the DeFi space. I think most of our team members have used it on more than one occasion. Sometimes for more intelligent purposes, sometimes for just degening into some stuff. But yeah, it's all very interesting. I think we definitely need more infrastructure like this in DeFi space to give it more adoption. I think it's definitely doing the work of what some of the earliest internet companies did back in the 90s and the late 80s. So creating these basic foundational blocks for DeFi. And I also think it's not even just like my opinion, it's more or less the universally accepted truth is that DeFi is also here to stay. BlackRock and JP Morgan and all the big boys, what we like or we don't like, they're all tokenizing everything. So DeFi is here to stay. And I really like that, DEXTools is focused on giving the little guy, the average person, the retail opportunities to get some insights that are not normally might be available to sophisticated people or investment bankers and so on. So I think keeping this spirit of crypto where people can use tools, people can help develop new tools, that's very valuable. So yeah, we are also looking forward to see where DEXTools, is in a few years, what new features might be coming. So yeah, very excited to be partnered with you guys.
Awesome. Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Angel, for your time. Very excited on what you guys are building. I'm looking forward to seeing PrivateAI thrive, literally revolutionize the industry, and even change the world. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It was my pleasure to speak.